What's next? Living longer, better, smarter. Thanks for spending time with us once again. This episode, New Things to Know, Tech and Medicare Open Enrollment, is made possible by VividPix.
So I've been in the photo business for 37 years, and I've seen a lot of things come go. But one thing has not changed, and that this wonderful thing we call a photograph captures a moment in time so that we're able to reminisce and relive those memories tomorrow. And it's important for us to do that so we can share them with loved ones and we can share them with future generations. So please don't let your memories fade. They're important.
Also supporting us in this episode is GetSetUp, empowering older adults to learn useful skills and explore interests. Find more at GetSetUp.com. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with Mary Furlong. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Fred. We really have a timely episode for everyone today.
We do. We'll be diving into things to know during the Medicare open enrollment period and more. Stay tuned for that. But first, another great resource for learning focused on technology is OATS, OATS, Older Adults Technology Services from AARP. And with us is Executive Director Tom Kamber. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Fred. How are you? Hi, Mary.
Hi, Tom. Tom and I were just reminiscing, Fred, because we go way back. We're so thrilled to have you here. You've been such a leader in a field that's so near and dear to me. So I can't think of anything more important today than helping to make sure older adults get technology access to be able to reach the services. But you know, this has been a passion of mine for a long time. Right. So talk about the early days, because you knew we had a kernel of an idea in SeniorNet, and then you just really built it out. So.
Well, absolutely. We were so super inspired by the work you did, and we started it. So I started it in 2004, and I remember the first center we went to, people said, you know, there's this thing called SeniorNet, and so we started learning from that model as we built our curriculum and programs, and it really helped us think about how to be strategic about this work. And here we are today with programs all over the country. So something's working well, and I think we all build on each other's work over time.
You have such an amazing background, Tom, having taught courses on technology, urban studies, and philanthropy at Columbia University. You're the co-founder of the Afro-Latin Jazz Alliance, which has won multiple Grammy Awards. Wow. And your focus on aging and technology with OATS and Senior Planet with AARP has led to a variety of new programs. Give us a bit of an overview.
Well, geez, it's been a wonderful sort of adventure for me in the nonprofit and social impact space. I think I was a real kind of catch-all social benefit guy over my career. I started out in housing. I've worked in nonprofits my whole life, and always thought of myself as kind of a creative type, looking to create new programs and organizations to make change and do good things. And so years ago, I learned about the connection between aging and technology. I started out volunteering with a single woman in Lower Manhattan who asked me to help her after 9/11. We were working on a project to rebuild the community in Lower Manhattan and bring businesses and residents back. And we built a website, and I got a phone call from an older woman. She was about 80 years old. Her name was Pearl Schur. And she said, I want to go to the web party, but I don't know what the web is, and I'm not sure if I would be welcome at an internet thing. And I said, oh, you should come and talk to me. I'll teach you everything you need to know. And I didn't have any idea what I was getting myself into. But I began tutoring her, and I started building a curriculum in a notebook with her. And one thing led to another after about a year. And I realized that New York could use some additional support for older adults in technology. And so I started a nonprofit called OATS. And in Bedford-Stuyvesant, we did our first programs. And I think what made us special was we worked a lot with older people when we built our curriculum. We were very focused on what the actual training would be. So we sat down with the older residents in the housing development that we were in, and they helped us write that first curriculum, which was very directly designed in terms of what people were looking at it for content in those days. And our big innovations, like we kept the classes to an hour and 15 minutes because a lot of particularly men that are in my age group and a little bit older, we got to go to the bathroom after an hour and a half. And if you run the classes for 3 hours, nobody can sit in the seats that long. And so we made all of these sort of what seem like fairly obvious adjustments and adaptations. But today we've got we have 25 multi-week courses that we teach, and we're in 5 different languages. We're teaching one-day sessions all over the country. We've got thousands of pages of curriculum, and it's really taken off over the years into something pretty robust.
So I always thought the magic was in the hearts and minds and souls of older adults so enthusiastic to learn. How many senior planet centers do you have today? And you're opening a new one soon in Miami, which should be large. So I remember we had a little article about SeniorNet in USA Today, and they had so many letters that came into the university at the time that we had to move into a nonprofit space because there was just such demand. So how many centers, and then what are some of the popular classes today?
Well, the centers are the kind of, you might call them like laboratories of innovation that we run at Senior Planet. So we started out with our first one in New York City. We then expanded from that to a rural location in upstate New York, which is so close to the border of Canada that there's French language programming in the radio. And people always say there's more cows than people, which I have not counted, but it could be true. And then our third center is still in Denver, Colorado, in the Lowry Air Force Base, where we were able to repurpose part of an abandoned airplane hangar and make it into a really cool Senior Planet Center. And the Miami one will be number 4, and that's our first one in the Southeast. It's in the Wynwood part of Miami, which is the kind of arts and tech sector neighborhood there. And we try to position the Senior Planet centers in locations where they might be a little bit more central, with a lot more visibility and some higher traffic at times, but certainly more in the middle of the action in some of these communities where we want it to be a center that's more for a sort of a regional focus for people to come in and say, yes, first of all, older adults can and will use technology. They're driving a lot of change. They're starting businesses. People are creating economic development opportunities. They're employing each other. They're driving a lot of our civic life in the country. And so the centers become sort of a showcase and a hub for how people use technology for those kinds of results. And then what we've been doing with the centers is leveraging those outward into partnership sites as well. So we can't and really shouldn't be trying to open Senior Planet centers in every town and every community across the country. But we realize that the model is very valuable. So my team is developing curriculum on computer basics, for example. I mean, I hate to say it's still a popular topic. I was at a class in Austin this week visiting one of our sites, and they were studying basic computers. And it's called Essentials. That class is doing PC Essentials, but we have PC, we teach iPads, and we teach Chromebooks. And when we teach those courses, we develop all this curriculum, we translate it into Spanish, we translate it into Chinese, we add to it programming around financial security and social engagement and things like that. But the trick is, how do you get that out into communities? Because again, there's the local activity in the neighborhoods and the senior centers and the libraries is where all the knowledge is and all the passion for delivering and making change. So we created a program called licensing, where in addition to Senior Planet centers, we are now licensing our curriculum out to non-commercial entities all over the country. We have 320 locations that are using our program and curriculum, and we don't charge. So we don't charge the licensing partners. We don't charge the older adults to take the classes directly for us. So it's kind of 2 different levels. There's Senior Planet centers, and then there's all those licensing partners out there that are using the materials.
And that allows you to scale. I mean, libraries are a natural place for these to be,
That's right. Yeah, we learned that just by getting out there and doing the work. So when we started going specific, we've learned a lot from rural areas. Interestingly, that's been a real passion of ours. When we went into some communities that, they're sort of lower density areas, they don't have as many service institutions, and people may be a mile from their closest neighbor. But the libraries turn out to be the real backbone of a lot of the civic life in those rural areas, and they're consistent across the country. They've got the facilities, they've got the staff that are obviously interested in information and helping people, and people get in there for knowing, sort of learning. They're already in that orientation. But what they don't have is they don't have a curriculum, and they don't have necessarily the team around the teaching older adults or the methodology. Also, the curriculum, this technology changes every day.
I was recently at a retreat on the beach with my girlfriends who are all 75. And one of them said, I really want to learn about IA next year. And I smiled because I said, no, I think it's AI that you're wanting to learn about. But, there's always a new frontier. And then also, I'm going to, Fred, bring you back into the conversation here, but there's also digital health literacy. So even after COVID, to be able to see a doctor, there's reimbursement for teaching people health literacy. Otherwise, they can't go in and see the results of their tests and so forth.
That's right. That's right.
There's an online component to this as well with what you're doing, Tom?
That's right. Mary was talking about scale, and like everyone, we were forced to adapt a lot during COVID. We had already been working to get our curriculum and our programs online before that. We had created a program called Senior Plan at U. We worked a lot with, because we're a nonprofit, we can work with philanthropic funders and supporters. And so the Consumer Technology Association, Steve Ewell is the leader there, was always helping us over the years with funding projects that were about innovation. And we knew that we needed to find a way to get some of these programs online so that people could participate virtually. Again, reaching huge numbers of older adults have limited mobility. About 30% of the people that take our courses say that they have some impairment that makes it a little bit difficult to get around. And so we've learned that getting into people's homes through the digital option is really helpful. So during COVID, we converted our curriculum into Zoom basis. We broke up a lot of those courses into shorter pieces so that people could take them as smaller series or even just like a single class. And we also expanded the digital capacity of Senior Planet so that we could market it a lot more and handle larger classes. During COVID, we did one class that was 11,000 people in one session, which was, it's like teaching to a small stadium, right? And it was incredible because, again, a lot of the older folks on the sessions were themselves, remember growing up when they were kids having a party line in their house, and the idea that we're all doing a bi-directional video session where people are learning together was really extraordinary. So today we have about 4,700 classes per year going online. We have them every day, and we put them up on seniorplanet.org. Again, everything is free. We are probably the easiest of all the online programs for older adults to participate in because we don't require pre-registration for almost anything. We don't have any restrictions on who's there. We just ask that you behave, respectfully toward others in the classes and programs. And we design everything for people over 60. And we certainly pride ourselves on having a lot of 70 and 80 and 90-year-olds in the classes. But you'll see if you look at the video, there's always a few folks that are younger in there as well that can participate, and we're happy to have them as well.
The elevator argument about why this is important for older adults, why they need these skills.
Well, the critical piece is, frankly, for older adults, I think the critical piece is that we need a level playing field. That everybody should have access to the same tools for living and producing as everyone else, regardless of age. And the reality is that older adults are still late adopters on tech, and tech's a moving target. So every year there's new stuff coming in because of the pattern of social networks that older people have that are typically not in the workforce as much and not in the university settings as much. They're going to be you have to work a little harder to close the loop on learning and connecting people to these emerging innovations in technology. And that's where the nonprofit sector can come in and really help people stay up to speed with all these changes so that we're not 2 years behind or 5 years behind other people that are picking them up.
Interesting. On your website, you have a section called Design Against Ageism. How real is the problem of how older adults are often viewed or portrayed, and what do you mean by design against ageism?
Well, the issue of ageism is I cannot emphasize how real it is, and how often I come across this. I was in a center at the Urban League in Austin this week. We have a licensed partner there, and I was there for a conference, and I decided to go visit the class and just meet everyone that was taking the program. And I sat down with people in that classroom, about 15 people, all older adults, African-American and from Austin in Texas. And I said, what's different in your life now that you've taken this class, and what's changing for you? And they said, we are able to explore these topics with more dignity. People talked about feeling disrespected and feeling treated as if they couldn't learn by their neighbors and some of their family members. And the idea, and they said, we've been leaders. We've run businesses. We were veterans. One of the gentlemen had a cap on from his veteran years, and he said, but the problem now is that as I'm older, nobody seems to want to hear from me, and nobody wants to give me the time of day. And so the technology classes are enable them to have that power to make a difference. So I hear this every day. I hear people talk about being invisible. We've done lots of surveys on it. It's no mystery. There's ARP's done surveys. Everybody's aware of it, but we have to remind ourselves that it's a daily challenge for people. And it's gendered at times. Men experience it different than women. Women talk a lot about the challenges around the kind of beauty standards as we get older, but men also have incredibly high suicide rates and mental health challenges as we get older as well in America. So the issues about ageism have real consequences. And this issue of design against ageism is really interesting. We learned as we started doing this work that a lot of people think when you're solving technology for older folks that what you should do is just get a bunch of throwaway computers and stick them on a wall somewhere, and now you've got a computer lab, and bring in somebody who may or may not have any training, and that's good enough, right? People, it's a technology thing, and they don't need the state of the art. They can use somebody's hand-me-down machines. And as I started trying to work in those environments over the years, it became infuriating. I was getting really angry about it because I felt like it was disrespectful. And I realized that if we created a more kind of ambitious and lofty and well-designed space that was so good that people were a little bit surprised and said, wow, this is a senior center, this is a program for older adults, this is great. We could turn that dialogue from it's good enough for people to, wait a minute, I'm surprised by the ambition of the older people that are coming into the center. We had a gentleman that came into our Senior Planet Center in Manhattan. He wrote a musical theater play about called The Green Book, about traveling around in the South as an African-American man in the 50s. He workshopped it at the center, and it's now gone national. And they're last I heard, they were in Chicago, running it as a play. We've had people start businesses and take their friends on cruises with the money that they're making. We've had people showcase ideas. Ashton Applewhite, who's a very famous advocate and leader against ageism, when she worked on her book, she brought those ideas to Senior Planet at the center and used that space as a really appropriate venue to try to change that dialogue. So when we say great design is the antidote to ageism, what we mean is if we make something really fantastic, just by the fact of doing it that way means that we care and means that we have our own point of view that doesn't accept ageism as a starting point.
Well, I love this because, of course, I'm very familiar with these stories. And we have, I think, 43% of the population over 60 living alone. Many of these people want to go back into the workforce, so they need those job skills. They also want to meet people, and the way you do that frequently is online. And the way they connect with their children and families and friends is online. So there's, but also the health issues, I think, to have that sense of community in a senior center is really powerful. And you also have a pipeline of the Age Tech Collaborative innovations to test. Are you able to test some of those in?
We've just gotten started with it. We joined this year. Age Tech Collaborative is a pretty neat program at AARP that brings together startups and more advanced companies together with a kind of an incubator and an accelerator approach. They've got investments into the companies as well at times. And so we joined as a testbed partner, which means that as groups are joining, you've got a product or service. We are very passionate about testing products and services with older adults so that people can get better at understanding the market. Users fall into categories. Everybody has a demographic or psychographic or other features that change how they use new products and services. And smart marketers and smart developers are always testing. We did a project with AARP this last year where we created design principles for age-friendly design for tech designers. And then they went out and we had an outside firm test those across, I think they used 50 different apps to see what the design principles would look like in practice. And as part of that, they asked people, have you tested your app on actual human beings? And out of the 50, I think 6 had actually done any actual user testing, which is shockingly low. And out of the 6, only 2 of them had worked with older adults. And so if you've got 2 out of 50 that are actually testing this stuff, we're failing this population. We're missing the market. It's a billions of dollars, even trillions of dollars of money flying through this market. And if we're not testing, we're not going to reach our population here. So our centers are available. We have done some user testing in the past at the centers. We've done academic research with universities using folks that come to the centers that have taken smartwatches and smartphones and used them to test things. We had Sony at the center a while back showing us some of their emerging technologies and getting people's feedback. So we will be increasingly a resource, I think, for Age Tech Collaborative in that capacity. And it's also just exciting to see all the change and ferment that's going on over there.
Well, really impressive, Tom, your great work, and exciting about Miami and the growth. So tell the audience how they can learn more about OATS, because we're available in a lot of senior communities. So
that's right.
A good place for.
Well, the first place to go would be seniorplanet.org. If you're looking to connect yourself and see what we've got in the way of courses and programs, just fire up seniorplanet.org and on a web browser, and you'll see that it has the classes being taught there. A good place to start is our morning stretch classes, which are at 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time every day, Monday through Friday. Those are super popular, but just try stuff out. A second thing to do is to look at, if you're interested in learning about OATS and more about how we think, we run our own corporate website at oats.org, OATS.org. And you can go there and see what we're up to and read our press clips and things like that. We are, as a nonprofit, always looking for support. So we're, funders. We're part of Grant Makers and Aging, and we're actively raising money for our Miami Center, which is launching in just a few short weeks now, and that'll be in the Wynwood section of Miami. So we're getting sponsors and partners for the Miami program. If people are looking just randomly with a question, or they want to see if they can connect to OATS and they're not sure how to do it, you can email us at info@oats.org, and that will get routed to a person who makes sure that the emails land on the right desk. So info@oats.org. And finally, if you know a site in your community that might be appropriate for licensing, we are looking to add 650 new licensing partners in the next 2 years. So we're really eager to get leads for local libraries, senior centers, housing developments, service agencies. You can go to oats.org/licensing, and you'll see that we have all the information available to get people signed up for licensing. We're running information sessions for new partners every month, and people can sign up for the next one and see if it's appropriate for their community.
Very, very exciting. So thank you, Tom, for spending so much time with us today, and congratulations on all your great work.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Fred, for having me here today. It's been a real pleasure.
Mary, when we talk about learning and older adults, GetSetUp is always front and center. And we are happy to have back with us co-founder and president Lawrence Kosick. Hi, Lawrence.
Fred, Mary, wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me today.
Yes, I always love to hear the progress of GetSetUp. It's a remarkable company, really improving the lives of millions of people. And it's the trust they have with each other as they are in this wonderful environment for learning. And now you have this great 2023 active aging report. So tell us what the aim of the report is.
Thank you, Mary. So as you both know, GetSetUp's mission has always been to be that safe, secure place where older adults, active agers, can learn the things they need to learn to socialize, connect, and learn with others. That's always been the mission. It remains the mission. And this report really shares our insights from having taught millions of older adults these very specific products and services that do help them live independently longer. And so we feel like now that we've conducted so many of these classes, continue to do so on a daily basis, we've gained a really interesting understanding of where the challenges and the opportunities are for activating older adults. And so we thought it was our responsibility to really share this information so that other companies, other organizations that are trying to do a better job and reach this audience understand what it is they need to understand to build products, services, apps that make it more accessible and easier to reach and activate this audience.
Really exciting. Now, you polled hundreds of GetSetUp members here. Let's talk about some of the key findings and what some of the headlines are, Lawrence.
So we not only have to poll folks, but observationally, it's quite important that we pay attention to what our learners say and what it is they do. Because, for example, when you poll our audience, it skews significantly higher towards the female demographic. That's for two reasons. Our audience is more female than it is male, and the female audience do more readily identify themselves as lifelong learners, and they're happier to fill out the surveys. Men, not as much. They do not identify as much as being lifelong learners, and they're not as willing to fill out sort of surveys. So they can end up being underrepresented if we only look at sort of the survey data and not the observational data. And so one of the things that we've seen is that when we package and market things as academic classes, that is more appealing to a female audience, and it is less enticing to a male audience. The male audience that we have likes to take classes that are more how-to, more fix-it, a little bit more task-oriented or use case-oriented. And when we explain a class or market a class as how to get something done, top three ways to achieve something, that skews much better towards a male audience than a female audience. So there's a lot we've learned around how to ask the question, who to ask it to, because you can get very different answers from our demographic.
That's not a surprise to me, because this boomer generation is the most well-educated generation of older adults we've ever had. And so I could see that there would be this propensity to learning. And you ever shop with a man, they tend to want to go in the store and pick up what they want. So I think those findings seem logical. Let's talk a little bit about the community that you're building in these classes. So the Surgeon General talked about loneliness and the loneliness epidemic. It's not a surprise that your members place a high value on socialization, especially after COVID, don't you think?
Completely agree, although we didn't set out originally to solve the problem of loneliness. It ended up being a wonderful byproduct of learning together. So, as the name GetSetUp would suggest, we initially launched the business a little over 3.5 years ago with a focus on helping people use basic tech. Like, how could you use your iPhone, your iPad, your tablet, laptop, computer, etc., to get into your first video class and open up a whole new sort of universe of wonderful things that you could do. But once folks got into classes and realized, oh, well, this is wonderful, this is fun, I'm learning with people just like me, from people who are just like me, so peer-to-peer, older adults helping other older adults, they became friends. And when you become friends, you inherently become more social, become less lonely, and a community starts to form. And that was a really natural byproduct of just the interactivity of the classes and keeping it sort of very peer-to-peer. The other sort of interesting byproduct of that was when you learn from someone that's like you or similar to you, it reduces sort of your fear and hesitation around perhaps asking something that might make you feel dumb. And we don't want anybody to feel like that. So when people are learning from other older adults, there's a similar patience, empathy, and cadence that really works. And that helps with the connection, that helps with the friendship, that makes people sort of feel like this is a community and be less lonely and feel like this is a place they can come and learn and socialize and connect. So that's been a wonderful byproduct.
More from your report, Lawrence, aspiring to age at home independently shows up as being very important as well. And it's interesting that GetSetUp's content for active agers, and you mentioned this already, you're attracting many more women than men. Tell us a little bit more, go into that as to why you think that is. I mean, it's not that you're marketing more to women, I assume.
I mean, I think, Fred, we initially thought, let's offer programming and curriculum that solves the problems we think need to be solved. Now, that was the way we launched. And we quickly started looking at the data and said, well, listen, why are we teaching what we think folks need to learn? Why don't we just ask them? And when we started to do that, we realized, yes, we were skewing more female because they do identify as lifelong learners, but it did allow us to start optimizing the programming so that we could have both female and start attracting a larger male audience. And the way we started to do this was sort of shorter classes, more how-to, more fix-it, more sort of use case and mission specific classes. And we started to see sort of a more balanced, still more female, but attracting a nicer combination in classes after we understood the nuances of what to teach, and how to message it.
So there's a lot of interest in healthy aging, and I think some of your most popular classes are in that space. Is that correct?
Absolutely. If you look at the data, 30+% of all of the programming on the platform would be health and wellness related, and we have a total of, I think it's 4,500 plus different categories of classes. So a disproportionate number of those are sort of health, wellness, fitness, nutrition, things that help we older adults live at home independently, healthy longer.
So a doctor told me yesterday, you just want to increase this health span in the middle so that you spend less time frail and sick later. Age appropriate classes are really relaxing for older adults because you're not in yoga with people that can do things that you can't do. So I think it really does help. Are there some things in the report you found surprising?
Oh, I think we continue to be surprised by the things that we observe and the things that we hear from learner testimonials. I'm always surprised that 50% of our audience lives alone. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised by that, but it makes me compelled to provide more programming that creates more socialization, that makes sure that if people are living alone, they don't feel like they truly are alone, right? That they're able to access our community and make friends and come together and learn such that they don't feel isolated and they feel empowered. And so that's a stat that always really resonates with me. We're 36%, sort of rural and suburban. It's not a surprising thing, but it makes me feel good that we're helping to reach people who need resources that might not live in urban centers. And the one I really like is, over 60% say that the curriculum and programming that we provide does help them live independently at home longer. That is a great stat for me. And of course, there's more work to be done there, but that's encouraging, and it tells us that we're at least on the right track.
You're absolutely on the right track. Because so many people found their purpose at work, and when they're retired, they're looking for other ways to connect. And I think you're providing this valuable community to so many people. I'm pretty concerned about the boomers losing partners, spouses, siblings, and the growth in the number of people living alone. So, and it's about to turn into fall and winter, and it's cold here. So as it gets cold and dark at night, there are things you can do from your home. That's really important. So I love that you're reaching rural communities as well. So, and you iterate all the time. So the product just keeps getting better with feedback from the community, correct?
Yes, and that helps us, better serve the learners. But what we're really hoping for in publishing reports like this is that other organizations, other businesses, whether it be, healthcare, government, consumer, finance, will really find some interesting data points in this report that will allow them to better serve their older adults. Because I think that we're all in this together, right? GetSetUp is not going to solve this problem on our own. It's going to take a village. And if there's things that we can provide to other companies who are building products and services and programs for this older adult population, then we want to provide that data because we think that rising tides lifts all boats. And so a lot of the insight here we hope will be really interesting to those businesses and companies really thinking about serving this audience better.
We will help you get that word out, because that's the mark of a thought leader, right? Where it's not just about building your own company, it's about contributing to the industry. So congratulations again on your accomplishments. We know there's so much more to come. So Lawrence, thank you for being with us this morning.
Oh, Mary and Fred, it's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for helping us spread the word.
And the website is getsetup.com. Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Mary.
Very great information from Lawrence and Tom. And now we turn to some other much needed information about Medicare open enrollment. Joining us from Keene is co-founder and CEO Scott Matthews. Great to see you, Scott.
Great to see you, Fred. Great to be with you, Mary.
Yeah, so happy to have you join in. So let's start with an overview of what Keene does and why you're so crazy busy this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. So think of Keene as a genius bar for Medicare. Medicare experts you can trust. We're a 50-state licensed Medicare-focused insurance agency. A couple things that are different about us. We're independent. We work with every major national carrier, both Medicare Advantage, Supplement, Part D. And most importantly, our advisors are not paid commission. They're on your side. They are just paid to get it right. And so that's a big difference between how we work and a lot of other agencies. And we're just here to build a relationship with you, get to understand your needs and get it right.
So here we are in the open enrollment period. Many people wonder if they should bother making changes. I think inertia is a factor for many people. Maybe just stick with what they have. What's the advice?
So every year you should shop your plans. The plans are competing for your business, the prices, the features change. But this year, 2024 in particular, is a very important year for you to shop your benefits, and I'll tell you why. Back during COVID, you may remember something called the Inflation Reduction Act. And that was known for changing a lot of the ways Medicare was paid for. You remember the $35 insulin that came out last year. Well, the big change this year is that they're removing the 5% charge in the catastrophic phase of Part D, which is a bunch of technical talk. The bottom line is consumers are paying less for their drugs. The health insurance companies are paying more for the drugs. That has caused the Part D premiums to change a lot, in many cases go up. In some cases, they're going up by 100%. And across the board, we're seeing Part D premiums go up 20, 30, 40%. And that's going to be a very big surprise to folks, especially if the Part D charges are coming out of their Social Security check. They may not even see it until the new year. Everybody's got to shop this year. And those changes in Part D affect people who are on a supplement plan and a Part D, or they're in a Medicare Advantage plan that has a Part D, because those costs do shift into the Medicare Advantage plan. So the number one thing to know this year is because of the Inflation Reduction Act, huge changes to Part D, you're going to get a surprise, but you also likely have the opportunity to save hundreds and hundreds of dollars by shopping the Part D plans. And it's really important. There's a lot of carriers who have increased prices. Some have decreased prices. So you really should work with an agent who represents the breadth of all the Part D plans so you can be shopping, because there is a big difference this year. The second thing this year that's really big, you do see a lot of very rich supplemental benefits in the Medicare Advantage plans, probably richer than you've ever seen before. By a supplemental benefit is something like a transportation benefit, a food benefit, fitness benefits, those kinds of things, dental benefits, dental, vision, hearing, the things that are not in traditional Medicare. Those features and benefits are much higher than we've ever seen in the past. And so there's going to be a lot of attraction to take people over to Medicare Advantage this year, especially with the Part D premiums going up. But there are a lot of disadvantages that people need to be aware of when it comes to a Medicare Advantage plan. So you're making decisions eyes wide open.
So there are so many different options. It can be confusing. First of all, whether to stick with traditional Medicare and a supplement or go to a Medicare Advantage plan. And getting real unbiased advice isn't easy. So grateful to have your service.
Yeah, it's not easy. And you have to understand the motivations of the people helping you. This year, the commission an agent gets from switching somebody from fee for service and a supplement plan over to Medicare Advantage is at a record high $611 minimum. And it's higher in some other states. So there is a pressure to help people get into Medicare Advantage plans, but there's a lot of attractive benefits getting Medicare Advantage plans, and they're definitely right for some people, but they're not right for everybody. They limit the choice of the doctors you can see, and the cost, can be much higher if you need a lot of care. And if you move to a Medicare Advantage plan, you may not be able to get back into a supplement plan without going through underwriting. So it's a very big decision. It's a very personal decision, and it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all decision. And it will depend a lot on the products in your market and the provider networks in your market and how they work with those health plans.
That's an interesting point that you just made, Scott. If people were to say, hey, this year I want to try a Medicare Advantage plan, you're saying going back to the traditional Medicare may have some extra hoops for you to jump through.
It does, and you should be aware. Medicare does allow you to try a Medicare Advantage plan. If you've never been on a Medicare Advantage plan before, you can be on a Medicare Advantage plan for up to 12 months, and you can get back to the previous supplement plan or get into a supplement plan if you switch back within 12 months. But once you cross that 12-month threshold, then you are likely going to have to go through medical underwriting, where the supplement plans will ask you a series of medical questions. And if they think you're too high of a risk, they can deny you. So buyer beware, to get back to the supplement plan is going to require medical underwriting. And what typically happens is you save a lot of money on an Advantage plan if you don't need a lot of care, but you get maybe later in life, you start having more care needs. Now the Advantage plans are going to be much more expensive. Plus you have the limit of which doctors you can see. When you need more care, oftentimes this is later in life, the supplement plans start looking much more attractive for a lot of people, but you may be stuck and not be able to get back into them.
But it is a gamble though, right? Because very often I might be healthy now and say, I'm going to go with an Advantage plan and get all of these benefits. And then, God forbid, something catastrophic happens 3 months from now, and you do need a lot of care, and it could cost you a lot more out of pocket. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it's a very personal decision, and it really does depend a lot on the physician networks and what network they're in your area. Although you're seeing today a lot of stories in the news about local health systems pulling out of the Advantage plans, and that's a reality. And that can happen not just at the beginning of the year, that can happen at any time of the year. If you are healthy, you are getting into an Advantage plan, there is something you can do to mitigate the cost of going to the hospital. There are these other policies called hospital indemnity policies, which can help pay for those higher hospital copays that you're going to see in an Advantage plan that you wouldn't play in a supplement plan. So there are a lot of things you can do to mitigate that, but it really depends on your local situation and your personal situation.
Yeah, you hire a lot of older workers who help you answer these phone calls, right? And people are pretty patient and thorough with the customers that call in.
We spend a lot of time with people. On average, we may spend up to 2 hours with you if you really have a lot of questions, because the right way to help somebody find the best plan for them is to get to know them, get to know their health needs. What are the medications they're on? You have to shop each of them. What are the doctors they want to see? What are the hospitals they want to go to? What are their other social determinants of health needs? And what's really the full picture? What's their financial situation, most importantly? And once you get to know them, you look through all the options, you think about the trade-offs, and you make a recommendation. And every market's different, every person's different.
There's some changes when it comes to Medicare marketing too. Tell us about that.
Yes, this year you're going to see some major changes when it comes to Medicare marketing. These have been put in place by Medicare as a reaction to a lot of consumer complaints to the traditional marketing you saw it on the system. A few things, you're not going to see as many of the really flashy TV ads. They're going to be more carrier health plan specific, because health plans now have to approve those ads. When you talk to a Medicare agent on the phone, they have to tell you how many insurance companies they work with and how many plans they work with. This is a good way for you to find out if they're just working with one insurance carrier, or they really are representing a diverse number of insurance carriers. There's a new rule called the 48-hour rule, which is if an insurance agent calls you and schedules an appointment, they have to wait 48 hours before they can talk to you about features and benefits. That is, if they call you. And so that's going to help reduce some of the the high pressure tactics that were evident in the industry. There's still going to be a lot of people calling you, a lot of advertising. This is really the Super Bowl of the year for the Medicare industry, and you have to be very cognizant of that. Buyer beware. You see those websites out there, the 1-800 numbers. A lot of times those are lead generation sites, and they're selling your information to the highest bidder. And it could really be anybody on the other end of that line. So, be very careful about how you choose where you get help when it comes to Medicare advice.
Well, I know the benefits around support for hearing, dental, nutrition counseling, weight loss counseling, physical therapy. These are all important benefits. So it's great that you are helping to make these clear for everyone. And also, as Fred said, it is a bit of a gamble. So you want to gamble in the right way. You want to have the most informed choice. So we really appreciate all you're doing, Scott, to make this so clear for older adults.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure to work with Americans all across the U.S. To help them with this important decision. It is a very important decision. And you have until December 7th to make that decision. So it's the enrollment season right now. So be smart, be informed, but definitely shop your options and find something that works good for you.
Terrific. The website for more information is ChooseKeen.com. Mary, lots of great information for everyone today.
Yes, we hope everyone found it valuable. Tell your friends to watch and to listen. And thank you again to Tom, Lawrence, and Scott. Great podcast today.
We want to thank our sponsors, Vivid Picks. Don't let your memories fade. Find more at vivid-pix.com. And also supporting us in this edition, GetSetUp, empowering older adults to learn useful skills and explore interests. Of course, we appreciate all of you for watching or listening. You can always find us at maryfurlong.com/podcasts.